Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this section, what we're going to be talking about is Active Directory domains and trusts. Now, what is Active Directory domains and trust? It's an actual tool. I would say it's a console that you probably maybe 5 to 10% of your entire time in a specific organization, or probably zero, you'll ever actually use. Now, why? Because it's only used whenever there's going to be a relationship between two separate companies. Let's say company A is purchasing company B, or company A is merging with company B. I need to work with Active Directory domains and trust. Look at this. Here's my first server. I have two standalone servers. So these are what I actually set up a while ago. Two standalone servers. One is going to be for Udemy and one is going to be for Coursera, which means two separate organizations. And I'm going to assume that these two different companies are either going to be merging together or one is going to take over another company. By default, they will not be able to access each other's resources in terms of permissions, delegations, logging on, anything until I establish an actual trust. And after I establish a trust, I could show you that I could delegate control from one organization to another for management. I could create users, groups, text, anything from one site to another. I'm going to make it look so real that I'm going to put each separate company on a different network, which means I will involve routing. In other words, by default, they will not be able to talk to each other until I configure routing. And once I configure routing, I will configure DNS. Then we'll create a trust through Active Directory domains and trusts. So this console, this tool, is only used whenever two companies are merging or one company is taking over another organization. And that's what we're going to be doing in our next lecture. So we'll see you guys soon. All right, everyone. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. What I'm going to be doing in this lecture is setting up Active Directory on two separate servers, one for company A and one for company B. So look, let me start with Udemy. So let me look at a full screen here. Watch this. So I'm going to put this on a different network. I'm not going to be on the network that is my wireless network is on. So I'm going to go properties. And let me remove version 6. We're not using version 6. And let me give this a static IP address. Let's say I'm going to be on the 192.168.100 network. And my default gateway, let's say it's 100.254, assuming that's the IP address of the router. And my DNS is 100.1, right? Okay. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm involving routing over here. And I'm going to call this, let's say, Udemy. Okay. Let's say SRV1 as you see, or Udemy, let's say DC1. All right. And more, and I'm going to make this Udemy dot what? Dot local. Okay. Udemy dot local. That's my suffix. And of course, I don't have a domain yet. I'm going to click OK. And OK, OK. And then restart. So this is on the 100 network. Then I'm going to go to Coursera, which is my second server, which is a separate company, a separate forest. Watch this. I'm going to put it on a different network, which by default they cannot talk to each other unless I involve routing. Right? It's going to be a lot of fun. Numlock is not on. 192.168.200.1. And let's say the gateway is 200.254 and DNS is also 200.1. Then okay, then okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the system properties. Come on. Change, and I'm going to call this Coursera, right? So I'm changing this according just to the same specifics of the first one, DC1, and I'm going to make this Coursera.local. Coursera.local. Sorry, nobody's saying anything that I've been doing uppercase. All right. It looks like, yes, there you go. Coursera.local. Then okay. So I have a fully qualified domain name. Then I'm going to click OK, right? And then OK, close and restart. And let me go back to server one. So here are server one is back online. Remember, the first step that I do is install DNS. Look, I want to actually show you what's going to happen without DNS, folks. So you can see this again. It'll be fun. I didn't change the time zone. I just left it as Pacific. Anybody lives in Pacific, you have a chance to see like, okay, this is on your time zone. So I'm not modifying that. So as you see, I don't have DNS installed. I want to install Active Directory domain service. I want to install actually Active Directory domain services first of all. And where is it? And I'm going to put a check mark also in DNS, but I'm not going to configure DNS. Okay. I'm not going to configure DNS at all. So I have Active Directory Domain Services and DNS. Next, 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 and install. And I'm going to do the same thing on the second server. All right, there you go. See, they're fast. And let me just put the password. They have the same password, okay? And I'll tell you why I'm doing this on purpose. You'll be surprised in a moment later on. Let me just go ahead and install Active Directory Domain Services and DNS. I'm doing the same thing as whatever I'm doing on server one. I'm actually doing it on server two. But as you see, they're both on different networks. So let me close this out. Go to manage, add roles and features. Okay, we have to give it a few seconds until server manager loads. So manage, add roles and features. And I'm going to go next, next, right? And I'm going to put a check mark in Active Directory Domain Services and DNS. So that's what I'm doing here. Then next, 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 all the way through. Give it a moment. And let me minimize this and go back to the first server. There you go. It's almost done. Almost done over here. Then I'll try to promote and I'll show you that it's going to fail at the DNS side until I actually create a zone for the domain name that I'm going to be actually hosting. So let's give this a few seconds. Let's give it a moment and see how this actually works out for us. All right, almost there. All right. And then I'm going to promote. Of course, each one is going to be a new forest. As you see, each one is on a different network. And I'll be testing this. I'll show you that there's no way that they could actually talk to each other, right? So let's keep that in mind. They cannot talk to each other at all by default. I'm just setting up the actual parent domain. Each one has its own forest, its own parent, right? Each one has its own network, even though I'm using the same physical box, let's say. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to promote and I'm going to say add a new forest, and this is going to be Udemy, right? Dot local. Watch this. Remember, I always like dot local. That's what I would recommend. So nobody can connect to you from the outside. It's a secure domain. Never use .net, .org, .edu, .com. Never use those. Always dot local, dot inside. So it's an actual private domain, right? That's the best way to approach whenever you're hosting an actual domain itself. It should be coming up soon. So look, DNS, okay. Remember, I could actually mess with the forest and domain function level. This is the DSRM password that we reset earlier. So I'm just going to put a password over here, give it a few seconds until it populates, and continue. Give it a moment and see how this works out for us. All right. Next. Look, it's failing. Okay, well, take a look at this. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to fix the problem by creating an actual zone for Udemy.local. See that? Udemy, we're going to cover DNS soon. Udemy.local. Be a lot of fun and allow for dynamic updates. Now I have an A record for it, all right? And a name server, SOA, we'll see those. So now, if I go back to the promotion, I hit the back key and I go next. Okay, let's go next again. Next. Okay, I probably have to cancel and promote again. Right, let's see. So add new forest, Udemy, dot local. Next, it's gonna find it quick. It's gonna know, oh, I know Udemy. It's somewhere. I could see how fast I was. Remember before it took a while? You see, when you do things the right way, everything is much faster. There you go. This is good. I don't need to create the delegation. No error message like the way it was before. So I'm going to go next, next, and all the way through. Let's give it a moment. Next. All right. Next, next. And we're going to finish the installation. And then I'm going to do the same thing, which is a separate company on my second server, which is for Coursera. Install. Okay, good. I'm going to minimize this and I'm going to go to my second server. So remember, I'm just going to leave this the way it is. We're not touching anything here. And we'll go back to here. I rather configure DNS since I already showed you what's going to actually happen. All right. And Coursera.local. Right? Coursera.local. Next, 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 and finish. There we go. Right? Okay, this is good. And let me promote the server to a domain controller. And I'm going to add a new forest. And I'm going to put this as Coursera.local and go next. This time, I'm not going to see that error message the way I see it on Udemy. See, it's quick, all right? And password and password and go next. There you go. This is perfect. This is a proper way. Next. And we're going to go all the way through. See how this actually works out for us. Almost there. Next. And next and next and finish. And install. And install. Okay, good. So let me take a look at and see the other server. See, here's this one. All right. And this one is finishing up. So it's actually restarting. This is actually good, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and we'll come back soon. All right. So I'm actually pausing at the moment so we don't actually waste much time. All right. We'll see you folks later. There you go, folks. Watch this. Everything is back online. So I could actually go ahead and log on to my second company, Coursera/administrator, right? This is a different organization. And let me do the same thing on the first one. Let me log on. Over here also, Udemy. So I have two separate companies. That's what we're going to do with this lecture. We're going to continue with the actual domains and trust in our next lecture. So we'll see you guys soon. All right, everybody. Bye. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue with Active Directory Domains and Trust. In this lecture, we're going to be testing connectivity. So look, I have two separate companies. They're on two different networks. I want to see if they could actually talk to each other. Okay, so watch this. Let me log on to my first company, which is Udemy, as you see. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove the firewall just to make sure nothing is blocking any traffic. So you could say, you know what? Maybe the firewall's on. That's why. All right. So watch this. Let me just go back here and remove the actual firewall. So I'm going to go properties and off, off, and off. Then okay. And I'm going to do the same thing, right? So we're going to do the same thing on where? On the second company, which is Coursera. All right. So there you go. And let me log on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the firewall. Let me actually put them next to each other, right? So you actually can see better, all right? This is actually better. So we can look at both different companies at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead to the firewall and I could do it this way, or I could go to tools and right over here at the bottom, Windows Defender Firewall, right? This option right over here. And let me go to the properties. So I'm going to do off, off, and off. See that? Then okay. All right. First of all, what's the IP over here? Let me refresh. Firewall's off. Let me refresh. Firewall is off. See that? Both are actually off. Okay, this is 200.1. This one is 100.1. So if I go over here, open the command prompt, and let me just change the fonts to, let's say, 36 is actually good enough, and the color so we can see better. All right. Then okay. And if I tried to say, you know what, let me ping 192, oops, numlock is not on. 192.168.200.1. It's not going to work. First of all, it's on a different network. Unreachable. I can't reach it. And if I go on this side over here, open the command prompt, right, and change the fonts. Same thing. Let me just do this so you can see better color and green text. And I'm going to try and ping what? Look at this. This server is what? 100.1. So if I try to ping, right, 100.1, let's see how that works for us. 192.168.100.1. It's going to fail. They're on different networks. They're like on different locations, right? It's failing. Well, how about if I try to do this? This is udemy.local. So if I go to tools and I open Active Directory users and computers, and I right click the domain and I want to manage another company and I say change domain and let's put Coursera.local. It's going to fail. And if I come down over here, this is Coursera, see that? And I go to tools and Active Directory users and computers, and I try to put, let's say, udemy.local. Change domain, udemy.local. They're both going to fail. See this? Let's give it a few seconds until they both actually fail. So it's trying, it's like, I have no clue where Coursera is. And the other one's like, I have no clue who Udemy is. I mean, there's no trust, there's no connectivity, there's no name resolution. There's nothing established yet. Nothing at all. Right? So of course it's gonna fail. Right? Imagine if it works, that'll be crazy. Let's just make sure it's failing. It's trying, and it's gonna take at least a minute, so another few seconds, and I'm gonna get the error message that the domain couldn't be contacted. Right? There you go. Domain couldn't be contacted. So let's remember this error message, and let's make sure we get this error message on this side. So this is one way of testing connectivity. First of all, they couldn't ping. Second of all, I couldn't access another resource. Like from one domain, I couldn't connect to another domain. Okay, what's another way to test? Look, this is Coursera. So let's say I have a shared folder over here, right? Under my C drive. And let's call it Coursera share, right? Just like this. And under here, I have a text document. Let's call it Coursera, right? And I'm just going to write anything in here. Coursera. Then file and save. Then I'm going to go back. I'm going to share this folder and see if I can give access to Udemy. Sharing, advanced sharing, share this folder, permissions, add, location is Coursera. Do I see Udemy in the list? No, I don't. There's no trust, right? Okay. There's another way to test connectivity. What's another way to? Let's say I want to try and give access to someone else to manage my domain. Remember, delegate control? Okay. Do I see Coursera in the list over here? Locations, it's not in the list. Okay. Why? There's no trust between them. That's why there's no actual trust between them. Right. So let's make sure we understand that. That's what I wanted to show you in this lecture. By default, there's no trust. My next lecture is how to establish connectivity before creating an actual trust. So we'll see you guys in another lecture in a few moments. All right, everybody. Bye for now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. In this lecture, what I want to actually do is configure routing between these two different networks. Remember, each one is actually on a different network. The first three octets over here is 192.168.200. The first three octets here is 192.168.100. So that's why they cannot talk to each other. What I'm going to do is static routing. For example, do you recall when I was trying to ping? I'm going to try and ping it with a negative T so it doesn't stop. And I'm going to do the same thing over here with a negative T so it doesn't actually stop. So I could see while I'm doing the routing, I'm going to have a different error message and then it's going to actually work. So my main goal of this lecture is to establish static routing from one side to another. Now, Udemy only supports the 100 network. And how do I see that? Let me focus on Udemy here. So I'm going to open another command prompt. Watch this. So if I open the command prompt, and let me look at my routing table. I could use route space print, and I could see that this only supports the 192.168.100.0. I need to add the 200 network in the list. So I do route add 192.168.200.0. space the word mask, space the subnet mask, all right? Space the IP address that I'm actually on, which is 100.1. I like to put a negative P, which is a persistent route, which means if I restart, the route is going to be there, and I'm going to press enter. Now it worked. Okay, the route worked, but how about if I do route print? Do I see that other network? Yes, you do. I do see the 192.168.200 network. So it's in my routing table. Okay, how about the error message? Did it change? Oh, it's getting better. It says, listen, it's timing out this time. It's like, I think I know where you are, but I could still not reach you because I have to go back to Coursera and establish a static route back to Udemy. So let me minimize this. All right. So we're actually almost there. Now we're actually on Coursera. Let me look at a full screen and minimize this right over here and open another command prompt, right? And watch this. Oh, looks like it didn't work. And now route print, right? And look, what do I support here? The 200. I need to add the 100. So I'm going to say route add 192.168.100.0, space the word mask, and the subnet mask is the default mask, which is 3255.0, space the IP address that I'm actually on, space negative P. And now check this out. Look at this. Once I do that, Ping will start working. Look, I'm getting a reply right now. Isn't that amazing? They could talk to each other. It's like I talked to the ISP, I got a link, or I did a VPN, like say site to site. So one site can ping the other. How about the other one? Can actually, let's see, Udemy, it could also ping. See this? It was failing at the beginning, but now it's actually working. So everything looks fine, right? So this is actually a good sign, as you see, right? So pingin is going between. Can I reach my fully qualified domain name? Well, let me see. Look at this. I want to look at both systems at the same time, right? And let's say Coursera and this. So if I open server manager here, it's called Coursera DC1. Okay. So let me open the command prompt. I could ping by IP address, but I cannot ping by name. Let's see. So ping Coursera, right? DC1 dot Coursera dot local. It's not going to find it. Why? Because my DNS server has no clue about Coursera dot local, and I'll prove that. And same thing over here, all right? I just wanted to show you. If I go back to the command prompt and I say ping Udemy DC1 dot Udemy, right? Dot local, it's going to fail because DNS is not configured yet. Reach by numbers. So my next step is to configure DNS and allow DNS to pass through before we actually create the actual trust. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in our next lecture. So we'll see you folks soon. All right, for now. Bye, everyone. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. So this time what we're going to be looking into is how to configure DNS so we'd resolve by names. Check this out. Remember, it failed from one to another. Well, why? Let's take a look. Let's go back to Udemy. Let me open my DNS server. And if I expand, I only see records about Udemy. I don't see anything about Coursera. And if I go to Coursera, if I go to tools and I open DNS, I don't see anything about Udemy. I only see Coursera. What I could do to resolve domain names from one forest to another is to create something called a forwarder. Now, what is a forwarder? We're going to see that more when we cover DNS, but for now, I can tell you this, a conditional forwarder, which means I'm going to send a request to a DNS server that has information about the domain name. For example, if I'm on Udemy, who has information about Coursera? This system over here, and what is the IP address? It's 200.1. So if I right-click conditional forwarder, I'm going to forward the request to another DNS server that knows about Coursera. And at the top over here, I'm going to put, go ahead with the DNS domain name, which is Coursera, right? Dot local. And right here is the IP address, which is 200.1. 200.1 and press enter. Even though it gives me an error message, that's fine. I'll come back to it later. Then OK. And if I come down to Coursera, I need to create a forwarder to forward it to Udemy. So a new conditional forwarder, and I'm going to put Udemy dot local, and the IP address is 100.1, right? And there you go. Then I'm going to click OK. Now, if I restart the service over here, all tasks and restart, And same thing on this side, all tasks and restart. I go back over here, Coursera, I could see it. What if I go to the properties? Edit, is it resolving? Yes, it is. I got a green check. Okay, I just had to refresh it, folks. You see that? And I go to Udemy, properties, edit. Yes, I could. Okay, well, can I test connectivity from the command prompt using what? Fully qualified domain name. Let's try. Oh, there you go. You see that? Now you could reach fully qualified. How about this side over here? Can I reach fully qualified because of that conditional forwarder? Yes, you can, and it knows the number. Perfect. I finished my next step. After routing, I have to configure DNS. Okay, how about this? Let me take a look and look at Server Manager. Go to Tools, Active Directory users and computers, and try connect to my other company that I have. I want to create a trust with, but let me do it without a trust, right? I mean, I'm not going to see it in the list. Okay, I'm going to put Udemy dot local and click OK. It says, look, unknown username or bad password. You see, it's different than the previous error message. This means there's no trust. I'm going to go to Tools, Active Directory, Users and Computers, and right click and change domain and go ahead and put what over here. If I browse, I don't see Coursera, so I'm going to put it in manually. Coursera.local and click OK. Now it says unknown username or bad password. In other words, that means there is no trust established between them. That's my next step. Okay. I just wanted to do DNS with you guys over here after we did routing. So in our next lecture, what we're going to be configuring is the actual trust between both organizations. Is going to be more and more fun. So we'll see you folks soon. All right. For now, everybody. Bye. Okay, everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. So, what we're going to do in this lecture is to establish an actual trust. We're finally doing it between both organizations. Watch this. Since they could ping and they could resolve names, my next step is to create trust. So, I'm going to go to Udemy. First of all, let me log on. And let me also go to Coursera and log on. Okay, so what I do over here is the following. I'm going to go back to Server Manager, Tools, Active Directory, Domains and Trusts. I'm going to right click on my parent domain, which is Udemy, and choose Properties, Trusts, New Trust. All right. And I'm going to go next. And I'm going to put Coursera in the list over here, dot local, right? It says external or forest. What does that mean? External, which means from one domain to another, only involves two domains. If I say a forest trust, that means all the domains in my forest will be able to talk to all the domains in the other forest, and that's called a transitive trust. So I want to make a trust between just two domains. In my case, both are actually the same since each forest only has one domain. So I'm going to choose external trust and go next. Two-way, which means they both can connect to each other. If I do two-way over here, then I have to do two-way on the other side. If I do one-way incoming here, I have to do one-way outgoing there. If it's incoming over here, that means this domain can access Coursera, but Coursera cannot access Udemy. Maybe Udemy is taking over Coursera. We don't need Coursera to access Udemy. We just want Udemy to access Coursera. So I do incoming on this side and outgoing on the other side, and vice versa in case. So I'm going to do two-way and go next. And I'm going to create the trust only on this domain. If I do both, I need to have the administrator password of the other domain. So I want each one to create the trust, and it's going to ask for a shared password. And I'm going to go next. Domain wide, which means all the users in this domain will be able to access all the users in the other domain, and they only have read access. Selective, which means I have to choose who has access. I'm going to go with the defaults, domain wide, the trust password. And this is the same password that I put on the other side and go next and next and next. And I don't need to confirm since each one is doing it on their own and finish. Before this can actually be working, I have to create it where? On the other side. So if I go back to Server Manager here, Tools, Active Directory Domains and Trusts, and I'm going to right click on my parent, choose Properties, go to the Trust tab and do New Trust and go next. And here I'm going to put what? Udemy, right? Dot local and go next. External, same thing. Next, two-way, next, this domain only, next, domain wide, and put the trust passwords and confirm it. Then I'm going to go next, next, and next, right? And finish. I'm done. Guess what? If I go to the properties, I could take a look at the trust itself and change whatever modifications from before. I'm not going to change. I'm going to leave it as it is. So what I'm going to do right now is the trust is established between both sides. That's all. What I'm going to do in our next lecture, we're going to go ahead and see how we could test connectivity between both using users and computers. Fully qualified, it's already done through NTFS shares. How can we actually do that? So we'll see you folks in a few moments. For now, bye everyone. Okay. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, finally, we're going to go ahead and test and see how I can connect from one side, from one company to another. It could be from one side of the world to another. So let's take a look and see. Look at this. I'm actually at Udemy. If I right click on Udemy and I choose change domain this time and I click browse, I see Udemy only. I don't see the other one. Well, you're going to tell me, like, how about we just create the trust? Where is it? Well, you're not going to see it in the list from here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type for Sarah dot local for now and connect. And now I could actually see it. You see that? I just had to do the actual connection. But look, everything is read access. So, Udemy can reach Coursera, but with read access. This time, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to close Active Directory, users and computers, and I'm going to go back to Server Manager, Tools, Active Directory, Users and Computers, and I'm going to right-click Coursera, change domain, browse. I'm not going to see it, of course, but now I'm going to type Udemy.local. And okay, they can both connect to each other. You see that? With read access. Well, how about this? Do you remember I had a shared folder? Where was the shared folder? I believe it was over here. So if I go to my C drive, it was actually on this side. If I go to the C drive, I have the folder called Coursera Share. If I go properties and I go sharing, advanced sharing, share this folder, permissions, add locations, I see Udemy. You see that? So I could give access to users from Udemy. Okay. And same thing over here. If I create a share and call this Udemy, right? And create a text document under here. Let's say new text document, and I'm going to call this Udemy also. And I'm going to just type Udemy, all right? And save the file. So if I go back and I go to the properties of Udemy, go to sharing, advanced sharing, share this folder, permissions, add locations, I can see Coursera, all right, from Udemy. What's another thing I could do because of the trust is there? If I go back to my own domain, which is Udemy, change domain, back to Udemy.local, and I right click on my own domain and I choose delegate control and I go next and I say, I want to delegate control to another organization to manage my environment, add location. I do see Coursera. All right. You see that? Okay, good. Well, you know what? I have an opportunity to do something over here, even though I'm actually on Udemy. And this is actually going to go back to Coursera. Let me just change the domain and show you. Under the users container, I'm just going to create a valid user here, new user. Okay. And I'm going to call this Coursera. Coursera 1. You'll see why. Coursera 1. Okay. And I'm going to go next. I have to put a complex password because of the password policy. I'm not going to change that for just one account, even though I'm actually doing this for testing. And I'm going to go back to Udemy and create a user under Udemy. So here, Udemy 1 and Udemy 1. And I'm going to go next, remove the check mark from the box and put the password. And next and finish. So look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to create a group. Okay. This time I'm going to global. I'm going to say this is Udemy global. Okay. And I'm going to create another group called Udemy. Watch this universal. And I'm going to create another group, but oh, I didn't change it. You guys didn't say anything. Universal. I'm going to choose universal. Okay. Then I'm going to create another group and call this Udemy local. Okay. And I'm going to choose domain local. Remember what I told you? I'm going to come back to this. Look at this. If I double click the global group, see, it says global members, add location. I only see Udemy. Okay. I cannot add users from another forest. Okay. How about Udemy local members, add location? I see Coursera. So I could add users from another forest to this group. You see this? I could see, where is it? There you go, Coursera. See, that's what a local group allows me to do. How about universal? Let me double click universal. Members, add location. I don't see it. Universal is for the same forest, like all the domains in the forest. Local, which means I could add users from another trusted forest. You see that? This is perfect. Okay. That's what I wanted to actually show you. Well, that's it for domains and trust. In our next section, we're going to work with Active Directory sites and services. In other words, we're going to assume that we have multiple locations, multiple domain controls. How can we manage Active Directory sites and services? So we'll see you folks later on. For now, everybody, bye. Okay.